Hello, everyone, and welcome to Compassionate Chats. I'm Tanys Coughlan from My Place Home Care, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Heidi Gagne, also from My Place Home Care. And we have an awesome guest for you today, Michael Lifshitz from Abnormalities. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So we want to hear all about you, your story.
It started on a fall morning in 1970. No, okay, I won't go into that much detail. I'm a speaker and comedian here in Ottawa, and I basically use comedy speaking to share the challenges people with disabilities have and to enlighten, educate, and ideally inspire others to overcome their own challenges. Because my favorite expression is, we all face challenges. Mine just get me better parking spots. So, there we go.
So Michael does comedy, and
I don't know if you can tell. There might be a little laugh.
It was subtle. It was subtle.
Yeah, very subtle.
his shows are awesome. I've seen them. So Michael and I have known each other now for about 8 or 9 years, and in various circles, and it's been lovely. So tell us about like when you started. Just tell us your story, because I was going to say when you started doing comedy, but I think we should start at the beginning.
Okay, so actually, comedy came out of the, interestingly enough, I lost bet and some frustration. So what basically happened, so I was born with a disability. It's a condition called multiple congenital musculoskeletal abnormalities, which is basically a long, fancy way of saying that parts of my skeleton were not properly formed. So, for example, I was missing the tibia in my right leg, so I have a prosthetic leg. I had no hip sockets, so I had them constructed. I like to joke, most kids played with Lego. I was Lego. They just kind of snapped together whatever was there.
It makes me think of constructs from the 80s. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
So you remember the little Lego figurine? Yeah. That was me. We just snapped the leg on. It was
my God, that's hilarious.
It was phenomenal. But yeah, so
wait, I have a question. Do you have a custom Lego person? Because you can get those now.
Ooh.
Oh my God. Okay, no.
I feel you need to go on the Lego website, because they do them. I've seen them ads for like wedding guests and everything. But yeah, you can get custom made Lego. I think you really need to look into that.
Right after this session, I'm going to
immediately.
I'm getting a custom Lego. Because I should also disclose, aside from the joke, I loved Lego. That was like my escape. Because of the disability, I had a lot of operations when I was a kid. So stuck at home, what a great way to play than with Lego, right? So as I got older and I became like a teenager, started dating, I started seeing people's attitudes about people with disabilities. And things came to my head in 2005 when I moved. I had broken up with my girlfriend at the time, in part because of the disability. And I also got my electric wheelchair. So I use an electric wheelchair for longer distances. The definition of that has kind of shrunk over the years. So pretty much now I use it when I leave the apartment, kind of thing. So I'd gone to an electric wheelchair, and then I really started seeing what people thought of people with disabilities. Because so my thing I didn't understand was the reason I got the wheelchair was because I started not doing things I like to do because it was too hard for me physically. So the example I always give is the Jazz Festival in Montreal. I like going to the outdoor shows every year. And it became too hard to walk from parking. Well, if I have a wheelchair, I just park wherever and wheel my way over to the festival. Which I realize a festival is not the most important thing in life, but that's just one example of what I'm able to do.
Still quality of life, right?
Right, exactly.
want to do.
So it was actually a TV commercial. It was a TV commercial for the scooter store, and I saw seniors doing their groceries. I'm like, that looks pretty cool. So that's how I ended up getting a wheelchair. TV does pay.
Apparently.
Purpose to TV. But yeah, so I basically decided I was frustrated. I'd go buy furniture like for my new condo, and it was, how are you paying? I'm like, with financing, because I'm an accountant, so 36 months, no interest. I'm all over it.
Yep.
By that.
Yeah, good finance. You get comedy and financing and financial tips one session. There you go.
Multi-talented.
There we go.
I tell you. And like people would be like, financing, how are you going to pay for it? With my salary. And I'm like, I do accounting. Like once I get to like sitting, we don't do math with our feet. Like we use a computer. So
Exactly.
sitting in front of a computer, it's not a problem from someone with a mobility impairment. So yeah, so I got frustrated, and I was out with friends for dinner, and we were talking, and someone said, "You're really funny. You should do an open mic." And I'm like, well, why don't you do it? So we made a bet on which Sunday Super Bowl was, and whoever lost had to go do an open mic night. And the dates we both picked weren't even Sundays, so we were both wrong. That's what you want from two guys in finance. We don't know
you're an
dates or
accountant,
numbers.
but you don't know the calendar. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
okay. We all have our weaknesses.
The only date we worry about is April 30th tax filing deadline.
Yeah.
That's an important date.
But yeah, so I lost a bet. I went to do my open mic, and I fell in love with it. And I remember I left the club. So that in those days, it was at the Comedy Nest in Montreal. It was my first set. And it was really cool because I had been going to Comedy Nest for years before. So it was kind of cool to see the other side. And it was 10:30 on a Friday night. It was, if I remember right, January 26th or 27th, 2006. So it's been 20 years I've been doing it. And I went, and so it was 10:30 at night. I left the club around 12:30, and I could not sleep till about 3:30. Just the rush of getting people to laugh at your jokes. And as they say, the rest is history. I did comedy. Then someone said, you got an interesting story. You may be able to inspire others. Would you like to speak at my conference? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I spoke, and I got a standing ovation, which who doesn't like applause, right? So basically the takeaway is I'm an applause addict. It's just that connection with an audience, right? And so I share a lot of personal stories. And I think it's, for me, validating. And if I can touch somebody in this process or help someone in the process, then I'm happy. So that's basically how I got to where I am today. Frustration.
Do you find that sometimes the things you say might shock people? Because, I feel like we're getting into a slightly more enlightened time frame where we're not pushing things under the rug or ignoring. But do you find that people can get a little shocked with some of the things you say because we're so used to seeing but not commenting on things?
Yeah, I do think people get shocked, and I actually talk about it in my set. So, like if I talk about sex or relationships, people seem confused when someone with a disability talks about sex, and I'm like, okay, guys, something down there has to work, and it's clearly not my legs. And I'm not saying what it is, because it's family friendly. But I've never understood why would I not? Like if I go out with someone if I'm out with a girl, so this is a tip. So ladies, her Illumabilities on social media. If you ever want to look good, go out with a guy in a wheelchair because people will assume you're the caregiver, you're helping to take care of us, something. What's weird is when they call the person the escort because that seems odd. That opens
Yeah.
up a whole other can of fish.
We use companion.
But
We don't use
it's
escort.
odd. And one of my favorite was, and it's a joke based on a true story. And I was once out with a friend of mine, and we were at the jazz festival. I think it was the jazz festival in Montreal. See, the wheelchair can go to the jazz festival, except for when you realize you're on a sidewalk and there's no cutout to get down. And my friend was having a good time pushing people aside, like navigating a path fast. And then we're like, okay, we're not going back through the crowd. And then there was a group of guys that wanted to help the damsel in distress. And they jump up and they're like, we will help you. And they like pick up the wheelchair like a sack of potatoes and put it down as if and they don't even acknowledge that I'm in the wheelchair. It could have been a bunch of parcels. And my satisfaction was that when they lifted it, they grunted. And it was funny because when I got home and told my mom the story, she's like, well, why didn't you get up out of the wheelchair, make it lighter? And like my thing was, if they want to show off, let them work for it, right? And it was funny because years later, I told that story at a show that friend was at, and she goes, I always was wondering why I just thought you were being okay, I won't say that word, but being mean, being less than compassionate. Let's go with that. We'll just use compassionate and less than compassionate. We'll keep a theme going. So yeah, I think, and that's why I do comedy, to try and address some of those misconceptions. And I think if you don't have, we all have blind spots, and I think if you don't have if you haven't faced certain adversities, thank you, that was the word I was looking for. I knew I should have just stuck with challenges. That's what I get for going fancy. But adversities, if you haven't faced them, you're not necessarily aware of them. So I think people are become more aware, and that's part of, like, obviously when I do comedy, the goal is to entertain, but if people can take away a message with it, that's kind of a bonus. And I remember someone once said that, we were talking, it was one of the staff at one of the clubs, and she's like, until I saw your set, I never realized how inaccessible bars are. But it's true, because like when you start making jokes about accessibility, people are like, hey, wait, he's got a point. We once did a show, and there were 3 comics in wheelchairs. It was an all people with disabilities show. And it was in Montreal, and we wanted to go out afterwards to have a drink. There was one bar we could think of in all of downtown Montreal that we knew we would not have a problem with the wheelchair getting in, which is kind of weird. I also think it now has closed, that bar, so I don't know what we're going to do next time. But so I think there is an element of surprise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I think, accessibility to get in is one thing, but washrooms are another whole.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Right?
I mean, there are some washrooms where they might have an accessible stall, but it's not always that big. And because the other stalls, like there's some where I'm like, okay, I can't turn around in here. Like, I don't keep standing up. I need to turn around. But just imagine somebody, even with a more accessible stall, it's still tiny.
Yeah. It. I actually was going to come out with a book, places to pee in the Glebe in Ottawa, because I don't know what it is about the Glebe. They have an obsession with bathrooms in the basement. I don't know what it is,
Oh.
but
Older part of the town, I guess.
Older area.
actually, it's funny you say older part of the town because I actually find you can tell how old the part of the city is
Yeah.
by how accessible it is. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends commented that the market was built when there was horses and carriages. Like horses would have an easier time getting around the market than I would.
Yeah.
I've considered getting a horse, but I feel like getting on it would be hard. We don't have wheelchair accessible horses. That's what
They don't.
Weird.
I know.
I mean, I'm sure people could help you, but that's not independence.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: people can help, but what always cracks me up is so I used to be able to do stairs, like until about 2019. I was doing stairs. I used to go to the clubs, run down the stairs, all that kind of stuff. Now I can't. And when I'd run down the stairs, I would leave the wheelchair outside, and then I would go do my
Right.
thing and then come back. And there's people who always go, "Oh, we can carry the chair down the stairs." And I remember one bar in particular in Montreal. I got there and I knew there was stairs, so that was fine. And I was going to do a show, so it was a rainy night, so I put the wheelchair on the terrace under one of the umbrellas, figuring that would at least keep it somewhat dry. And as I'm talking to one of the comics, the bartender, or the bouncer, I should say, comes over and he's like very nervous and he's looking at me and he's like, sir, it's gonna rain, which I kind of noticed by the clouds, but I appreciate the weather update. Thank you for the forecast. And I don't want your vehicle to get wet, so should we bring it down? If there's one thing people take away, it's a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, but a wheelchair. It's okay to use the word a wheelchair, not a vehicle. It's not a vehicle because, and like one of the comics that I was saying with laughter and goes to the guy, he knows he's in a wheelchair, right? Like it's okay to say that. Like, it's not like I'm crossing the street one day and like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I sitting? Like, I know I'm in a wheelchair. It's okay. But I had the urge to tell him that I don't think my Toyota Sienna is going to make it down the stairs. But I decided to be nice and I just said, it's heavy. And they're like, oh, we can handle it. He made it down one flight and left it on the
landing.
The landing because he's like, that's really heavy. I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. Like,
yeah, how are you getting it back up?
People, well, he wasn't happy about that. But I'm like, hey, I wasn't the genius who said let's bring it down, so let's go. It's interesting. The stories over the years about accessibility and how I figure out accessibility was interesting. I was in Iqaluit. I did the Canada North Arctic Comedy Festival. So basically, there's an organization. They bring comics from the provinces up to the territories, and then in the spring, the comics from the territories come perform in Ottawa. So we went up to Iqaluit, which, as you can imagine, the infrastructure is not quite what it is here or in other big cities. So we managed the one accessible bus initially wanted $400 something to pick me up at the airport. I'm like, are you coming to get me in Ottawa for that money? Or no, it was just to pick up. So we didn't go with that. We ended up doing, a guy came with a pickup truck and put the wheelchair in the back of the pickup truck. So 6 guys lifted it into the back of a pickup truck. And I was driving in a regular taxi behind. Now, they didn't strap the wheelchair down. So it was only 1.5 kilometers. But as we're wheeling, my comic brain and my sensible brain, because I'm like, it falling out would be a hilarious story and great material, but having to pay
Really
for it would be another problem.
Yes.
And then I show up at the hotel and like they go in to get some guy, and I felt like such a prima donna because I show up and like I have an entourage of 8 people escorting me in. That's like, bring my share off. I'm like, all right, way to feel important. But yeah, so
Yeah, it's quite a challenge, I would say, when you don't know where you're going too, right? Because you don't know what you're going to run into.
right, and that's where, and I another thing, and people could take this away, when you make an event, if you could just put a line and let us know it's wheelchair accessible, it's not. Because so here's the thing, a lot of the times I'm just too tired to bother looking it up, so I won't go to something because I'm like, it's in the market. It's probably more accessible for the horses than for me. I'm not gonna go. So it's a simple line of it's accessible, or what are the accessibility factors, the accessible entrances around the back, or if you need accessibility, please reach out to us and we can figure out something.
Yeah.
It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I definitely think about it, accessibility more now since I've been working with this type in this field, where those kind of accommodations or thoughts are pretty normal because a lot of seniors have walkers or wheelchairs and or need more space around them. And so now I do find when I go to a place, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you could use a walker here. Oh, no, this wouldn't work. How would you get up here? But I'm living in it now. But before, I honestly really didn't think about it, because like you said, if you don't need it, you don't see it.
Right.
Until you
And
break your ankle and you're on crutches or something like that. And then it really starts to hit home. And yeah.
I've always said that I wish people a long life. And I do wish people a long life, right? And good health, because
I was worried. I was worried
but
going this.
very compassionate.
inevitably, as we get older, as you mentioned, we are going to have mobility challenges.
Yeah.
And I love, and I'm like, then people can understand.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think we have, as a country, a big problem, because we're an aging population. People are living longer.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do when have far more walkers and mobility devices and challenges? And one of my friends actually pointed out it's not only walkers. She was a young mom with kids and a carriage. Because I was talking before about the glebe, and we were going to meet for coffee, and I asked her if we could go. I think there's a bridgehead on Bank and Fifth Avenue, if I'm not right. And the reason I wanted to go there is because when I went to do the show with the bathroom in the basement, before the show, I went to use the washroom at the bridgehead, and I didn't order anything because it becomes a little bit of a counter-fulfilling prophecy. If you go use the washroom and then buy a drink, you're back in the same place, right?
Yeah.
And you knew the bathroom was accessible.
And it was the only accessible bathroom I could find. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's go for coffee at the bridgehead, and then that way I won't feel guilty that I used the bathroom. I'm coming back, and now I'm giving them a plug on the podcast. So there you go. I've paid my debt.
You have.
But her comment was, she goes, yeah, I used to go there all the time because with a carriage, I could get in and, right? So, like when we say make things accessible, a ramp and a little button doesn't make it mean that one of my friends calls them walkies, so I'm going to steal that and go walkies. Walkies are also allowed in. I remember when I moved into my own condo, the constructor, there was no button to get from the garage into the building, because according to the building code, as long as there was room for someone to open the door manually, that was accessible enough. And this was built in 2005, so we're not talking old construction. And my response was I challenged them to come use my wheelchair and go through the door. No one ever took me up on that challenge, but I went to the condo association, which I ended up being part of, and I'm like, can I put something on the door that only I would access? And they actually voted that no, we're going to put a button, because lo and behold, people who come home with groceries and bags want a button. The button works for everybody, people.
Exactly.
So put buttons on your building. That's the other takeaway.
And those doors can be heavy too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like those outside doors and everything can be super heavy. So if somebody is weak, somebody has a broken arm, somebody, like, it's a kid. And plus kids love pushing buttons, so it's win-win, right?
Yeah.
Including ours.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I was working at Investors Group, and when I went for the interview, the guy who ended up becoming my division director, on the interview, he asked me the question, name me a time that you faced a challenge and tell me how you overcame it. And then he got super uncomfortable, because I think I had a positive influence.
Getting up.
But I could tell he was not really comfortable. He goes, oh my God, I can't believe I just asked you that. So me being me, I told him, well, there's no button on the door downstairs. That was kind of hard to get in. And it was an outdoor door, and it was a very windy, it was like a wind tunnel. So it was super hard to open. So I became a hero in the office, because now people could use the button. They put in a button, and so there you go. That's what I'm doing. I go from company to company getting hired, so they have to put in buttons.
Perfect.
By the time I retire, Canada will be fully accessible. That's my goal.
That's a lot of jobs, Michael.
It's a lot of jobs. I feel like at a point I'm going to stop getting hired.
But point for that company for listening.
Yeah.
It and I don't know if I've been lucky with the companies I've had, but I've always found that I've had very good support from the people, and I guess if I wasn't going to get good support, I wouldn't have been hired. So I guess there you go.
Yeah.
I just realized as I'm saying it, well, probably they're fairly open if they hired me. But I remember my first accounting job. I was a co-op student. I was in Concordia, and I did the co-op program. So I was doing a January co-op placement, and I was invited to come join the team at their summer retreat up north. And our managing partner showed up at the meeting, gave me a lift up. So I met him at a metro station. And at the break, and we were just chatting on the drive up. This was before the wheelchair. I was just walking with a cane. And at the first break, he came over to me, pulled me aside. He goes, sometimes when there's people in your situation, it's hard to know when to offer help and when not, and how to interact. So I want you to know my door's always open. If you have an issue, come talk to me and we'll figure it out. And otherwise, I'm just going to treat you like everyone else. And I thought so this was in 96, which I thought for 96, that was pretty advanced. Like, in terms of, but that was pretty progressive. And I would say probably at the time he was in his 50s. And the reason I say that is because I always take people's reactions to me as someone with a disability based on their age. Like if someone's an older person, I kind of can see where they might be surprised that I'm out and about, because when they were growing up, realistically, it wasn't that long ago that people like me would be in a residence, right? Or a
Yeah.
special school or whatever it may be. But I think that is the ideal that people should strive for in terms of being inclusive and creating those inclusive spaces.
Mhm.
That was great. That would be great. And because I do struggle with that as well. Like, I mean, not even somebody with a physical disability or any, like a visible one, I should say. When you're in the grocery store and I see a lady struggling to grab, like I'm 5'8.5", 5'9". So I see somebody struggling to grab something on the top shelf and I'm like, would you like a hand? And sometimes they'll say, oh no, I grabbed it. I got it, and she'd been fighting with the box of oatmeal and knocked it off. But other times somebody would be like, yes, please, thank you so much. And then, if I needed something on the bottom, I'm like, hey, you want to hand me that one because you're lower? But that kind of thing. So, I've always been one to just say, would you like a hand? And then if not, okay, walk on and do my groceries. But
Yeah.
I guess that's really all you can do. And because you know what you can do.
Yeah.
And maybe you're tired and cranky and you don't want to do what you have the capacity to do, but it's difficult. And some people might be like, yeah, I'm really tired. That'd be great. Can you do that for me?
Exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Is one thing to offer help. It's another, if someone says they're okay, don't insist. Like I once had someone tell me, oh, you don't have to prove yourself. It's not a question of proving yourself. It's just a question.
Capable.
You want to be independent, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you say the hard stops, because in 2022 I got a new chair and it
Mhm.
actually has a lift, so it rises. So like when I go to networking events, because the challenge at a networking event, and Tanys, you probably would know this from the networking events we've been together at. If people are standing around and there's music in the background, they are literally talking over my head, which is not their fault because they're talking face to face. So now I can actually lift and be part of the conversation, or like get stuff, as opposed to hitting it off the chair with my cane and trying to catch it in the basket, which is okay with a box of oatmeal. Not so good with glass jars.
Yeah.
That becomes a
Exactly.
little trickier.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think so it's interesting. We talk about with seniors and assistive devices and stuff. I think a weakness to some degree is I find it better in Ontario than when I was in Quebec. I find sometimes when it's government funded, they just give you what the government will fund,
Right.
as opposed to telling you these are all the options you can have. The government will not fund this, but if you want it, you can still get it. Because that lift share, I never knew was a possibility. I was at a conference and I saw a guy demonstrating the chair, and I'm like, that would be very practical. So the government doesn't cover it. So in Ontario, because I work, I'm under the assisted device program. So you basically get 75% of certain costs. So the
Yeah.
electric wheelchair, they don't cover the battery. You get an electric wheelchair, but no battery.
You can't
That is
go.
our government, ladies and gentlemen. I even tried
You
asking
have
if they
it. You
give.
just don't need to use it. It's fine.
Exactly. So the
Yeah.
electric wheelchair, apparently we're doing the Flintstones, and we're just going to use our feet and go yabba dabba doo and make the wheelchair go.
Which kind of defeats the purpose of having a wheelchair for some people.
It does.
Well, yeah, because if I could do that, I probably could walk. So,
You'd be fine.
I think in Quebec, the system's a little smarter, and it's rare I can say that about the Quebec government. So there we go, or any government for that matter. Smart and government tends not to go all that well together. But anyway, the Quebec government, what they did is they had a test. If you could go 150 meters with the manual share, you got a manual share. And if you couldn't wheel for 150 meters, you got the electric, and then they covered everything. I personally think we need to do a better job of providing assistive devices and just have us, in my mind, like I'll be honest, for a guy who has free healthcare, my healthcare costs are crazy. Like I'm like, I don't know about this free healthcare because I seem to be spending a lot. To me, assistive devices, if we as a society say we want people with special needs or different needs to be able to be participate, we should make it easy for them to do that and fund the programs.
Yeah.
And I always joke that give me 6 weeks with the government budget and I'll find money for everyone to have everything they need.
And you
but-
have
Or
an
an
educational background to do that.
It's I don't buy the we don't have resources. I just don't think we necessarily use them well.
Yeah.
As an example, when I moved here, my prosthetic leg was falling apart, so I needed to get it repaired. And they're like, okay, you need to go see a prostheticist, which is the doctor who prescribes an artificial leg. I'm like, okay, how do I see a prostheticist? Well, you need a referral from your family doctor. Wouldn't having a prosthetic leg be a reason to go see the doctor who
Do I
does
need
the
a
prosthetic?
referral?
Like, she's a lovely lady, but I don't think anyone's going just for the fun of it. So I went and got the referral from my family doctor, and then we did and there was a 6-month wait list to see the prostheticist. And I'm like, the legs aren't lasting 6 months. They're like, no, we're going to do the repair and then we'll fill in the form so we can get paid later. And I'm like, okay, so how much money? So there was a prostheticist and a physiotherapist and possibly, I think there was one other person who filled in paperwork after it was already done so they could get paid. I'm like, if you know it's going to get paid, how much bureaucracy do we need? Like instead of paying for that bureaucracy, just pay for what you're going to get. So that was my little soapbox speech. And I'm not going to go off on, I once did it was supposed to be a 5-minute set and I ended up with a 20-minute set. And it was basically a rant about a fight I was having with the Quebec government over my van. And the organizers just let it go because people were laughing. Because I tend to get, when I get frustrated, I get sarcastic, which is fantastic for comedy.
Yes.
So yeah, I got off stage and one of my friends goes, "Feel better, Michael? You got a little frustration now." So I won't go down the government funding route because I'm gonna get off on a tangent. And yeah. So I remember that in Montreal there was a day where they had politicians use a wheelchair for the day so they could see what it's like.
Mhm.
And my argument was, here's the thing, you have to do it by yourself. You can't have your aides.
Yeah.
You have to go. And funny enough, the mayor of Montreal was working at their office in the party's office in the same building as a charity that I volunteered with. And it was my big dream. And there was a step to get in.
Mm.
And I always wanted to just wait for him to be leaving and go and just stand at the entrance and sit in the wheelchair and wait and see his reaction just to make a point.
Yes.
I didn't do it because we got funding from the government city, so it would not be a good idea to upset the mayor, but
Yes.
I think it's useful for politicians to actually see what people go through and how people
Yeah.
have to manage the system.
I think it's really important. You hit the nail on the head. I think everybody should go through that, whether it's through work or whatever. We do that for we do specialize in dementia care. So our caregivers are trained in a method called PAC, which is positive approach to care, which really can apply to anybody, where it's highlighting the positive aspects, the things that they can still do versus the things that they can't do. But during that training, we actually will blindfold and put oven mitts on our caregivers and tell them to set the table. And we give them a pile of placemats and everything. So they can't see, because a lot of people with dementia, as it progresses, they lose vision. So we have glasses that, will represent like macular degeneration or glaucoma, and then ask them to do all these tasks. Your fine motor skills, you can lose those as you age, but as well as in dementia. So that's why we put the oven mitts on them. And it's really frustrating when you know how to set a table and you can't do it, and you can't do it efficiently. So, we do it at the end of the training, and they walk home and they're like, yeah, that was difficult. And it also teaches the other people that are watching this person, they're like, okay, we know they can do it, and I really want to help, but I can't because I know they can do it. So I need to, but it also teaches you patients to let them do what they can do. And we also do a dementia conversation and learning series where it's people who are primary caregivers for a loved one with dementia or family, friends, whatever. And we also do the same thing in one of the sessions there, because it really does put you in their position. And it's very frustrating. I also had a moment, I was watching TV with my husband and the subtitles were on, and I wanted to ask him to remove the subtitles, and I'm like, can you remove the things? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the things that are on the screen. He's like, the show, you want me to change? No, can you take the things, the letters that are on the what? He's like, the subtitles? I'm like, yes, please take the subtitles off. And I couldn't get the word out. And I was so frustrated because I'm trying to get him to know the word. And he's looking at me like I'm nuts. Now I'm also into perimenopause, so brain fog is a big thing for me. And I tend to say kitchen instead of living room. And my family finds it humorous, but it's frustrating. And I can imagine that's just verbally, that's just in my head. But imagine not being able to open a door.
Yeah. It's and so, like, here's the thing. I know there's some people with disabilities that don't like saying, "Oh, well, try to be disabled." Oh, well, that's easy. It's one day. Try living like that. And I get that point, but I think there is a certain positive to being put in the experience.
Yeah.
The other thing I always found interesting was, there's a term called inspiration porn. Inspiration porn. So what it is these memes where, like, there's no such thing as the only disability is a bad attitude. Or
Okay.
like those types of things.
Inspirational notes.
And I get where it's annoying. And I get the argument that someone with a disability is just living their life. They're not here to make you feel better. And sometimes it can be frustrating doing that. But the flip side of that equation is if sharing my story can make someone else feel better, why wouldn't I do that? Like I remember there was a night in university. We were at a pool hall down in downtown Montreal, and I went to get a drink, and I started talking with a biker guy, and my friends were shocked that I would talk to a biker guy, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? He's a person, and I mean, we're standing in a well-lit, crowded place. I don't think
You're
it's
not going into
different.
business with them. You're just
yeah, exactly. And I mean, so the conversation was that he found it nice that I was out with friends enjoying myself, because so he was telling me his brother, and I I don't know whether it was biological brother or biker brother, but not really relevant. He had been in a motorcycle accident, which is fairly common. Um, so when I was a kid, I actually we got a different perspective of bikers because at the rehabilitation institute where I'd go for my prosthetic leg, we had um, there would be bikers who had motorcycle accidents, and they'd be bringing like toys for all the kids and giving them toys so they wouldn't be scared, right? So
Yeah.
these are people, right? And it was basically that his brother had been in a motorcycle accident, lost his leg, and he was all depressed and thinking his life was over. And he's like, here you are, and you're out and with your friends, and he's like, we were trying to talk to him. Um, we were trying to tell him like he has a wife, a kid, he has his family, like a leg. Yeah, okay. It's would I wish like, hey, yay, I lost a leg? No, of course not. And there's an adjustment period and there's a mourning period, but it's not the end of your life. Was their point. And I had given him my card, like if he wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to have a talk with him. They never took me up on it. I think that's what freaked my friend out, like giving a business card to a biker guy. I'm like, what's he gonna do with it? I'm not sure what they thought. But anyway, yeah. So I kind of see both sides of the equation in terms of inspiration. I'd like to think, like I said before, we all face challenges. It's just how we deal with them. And if I can share what I learned dealing with my challenge, um, and someone finds it helpful, then that's fantastic. I remember there was an open mic in Montreal that my friend organized, and all the comics told jokes about their struggles and whatever their issues they were going through. And one of my friends came up to my friend who organized, one of the audience members, and it was a young kid, like 20 or something, and he was from Ottawa. This was in Montreal. He had come into Montreal, and the show was his last show that he was going to watch before he committed suicide. And he told my friend that the jokes convinced me that, you know what, there's people who got other problems. He was upset because his girlfriend had broke up with him. He's like, you know what, maybe my girlfriend breaking up with me is not that big an issue. So I think there is something to be said about sharing our stories and being vulnerable to share our struggles, because that may very well help someone deal with whatever it is they're going through, be it aging or um, disease,
health
illness,
issue,
whatever it is.
something.
Yeah.
Physical challenges, yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no shortage of challenges. It's a question how we deal with it, right?
And everyone deals with them.
Yeah.
Everyone has a challenge. And because you were saying, you had mentioned earlier that some people that have a physical or visible disability were like, well, yeah, you're doing it for one day, try living with it. But you also don't know what other challenges that person who's trying the wheelchair out, maybe they have a learning disability that has hindered them for so long, and they finally figured out how to work with everything and continue even with this. Like, you don't see you don't always know what other people's challenges are. So, it's kind
Absolutely.
of like being open and understanding. Like, I used to always have victim or not victim guilt. I would have guilt because some of my friends in high school were dealing with a lot of trauma, and my life was good. My parents were together. We communicated. We were a great family dynamic. And I had a lot of friends that had abusive parents separating. And I would feel guilty that I still had a happy family. But I was also dealing with my own struggles internally that maybe not everybody knew about. And then my therapist said that to me like not too long ago. And she's like, but it's okay. Everyone deals with things differently. Everyone has different struggles. And when you have a good family, relish that, enjoy that, because you know, like it's okay. It's okay to have a happy family when others don't. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good thing to think about is but you just don't know what other people are struggling with.
Absolutely. And that I think that's what I like about the We All Face challenges.
Yeah.
I also use that as a reminder. None of us know what someone's going through.
Right.
And I always try to remember that, like, you know, you're out and you feel like someone's being rude or someone looks upset at or angry at you. It may not be you. Like they just met you. It probably isn't you. People could be having a bad day. You don't know what someone's going through. It's interesting you saying, Heidi, about the guilt. I remember, so when my dad passed away when I was 15. So I was 15, my sister was 18. And one of her friends, shortly after my dad's death, had said, you know, you're lucky. Your dad can't be with, like her parents were divorced. And she said to my sister, you're lucky because your dad can't be with you. My dad's alive and wants something to do with me.
Chooses not to be with me.
Exactly. Like, so he had basically, her dad had kind of started another family and forgot about his original family. And at the time, both my sister and I thought that was an idiotic thing because obviously we were kind of engrossed in our own dealing with our issues. But when I think back on it now with a fresh perspective, it is kind of like I mean, it happened way too soon. But I'm grateful having seen now people in hospital. My dad passed away suddenly. I wasn't there when he passed away. I literally left the school, said bye. So I know people say, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye." Literally, that was the last word I said. Admittedly, admittedly, I did not know the exact extent of the goodbye, but at least my last image of my dad was him sitting in a chair, from what we thought reasonably healthy. Obviously not so much so, as opposed to having to deal with resuscitation and being hospital and hooked up to machines and all the rest of it. So I think it's easy when we're stuck in our own issues to remember that other people are going through other challenges and issues. I always find it cute when an older person is like, let me get not like a walker, because I live near Carlingwood Shopping Center, which I used to joke I like going to because it makes me feel athletic. It's an older community. And what's funny is I once did that joke at a show, and there were seniors and young people, and all the seniors laughed hysterically, and the young people thought I was a complete monster for saying that to the old people. And I'm like, okay, I know my audience, but I always find it cute when they're like, oh, let me get the door for you, or they'll let me go in front of them because I'm in a wheelchair. I'm like, you realize I'm sitting comfortably. You're the one standing. Like, I don't mind, but I just say thank you. And like, if they want to help, great.
It makes them feel good to be able to help.
Exactly. And I recognize the fact you want to be seen as, I mean, I sometimes want to be helpful. What I like doing is going, please allow me to get the door for you. And I hit the button because that's hilarious. They say chivalry is dead, huh? But yeah,
that's awesome.
It's about. I think we all want to feel useful and capable to that degree.
Yeah,
and we all have abilities. So
absolutely, and we all find ways to do things right that work for us.
Yeah.
I think it. So I've never been a big fan of like politically correct terms. I actually used to write a column for a magazine called Exceptional Family Magazine. So it's for parents of children with exceptional children. And the argument was that people with disabilities were exceptional. I'm like, not necessarily. Like some people with disabilities maybe are not that great people. Like
Yeah.
if Hitler was disabled, would that make him exceptional? I don't know. Extreme example, but also it's a lot of pressure. If I have an off day and I'm just okay, do I have to get back my parking sticker? Like, how does that work? So I remember like there was an article and she'd edit it and she'd like stick in exceptional, and it was like a compromise. Okay, could we do a little less exceptional? She's like, you have to have exceptional sometimes. I'm like, okay. So we settled on a compromise of how many times I use the term exceptional. But I think differently abled, and I know some people don't like it, I think that's the most accurate description.
Yeah.
Because I think we find other ways to do things. So can I walk to the market? No, but I can wheel, right? So there's other ways to do things.
Exactly.
So I think differently abled is actually a pretty accurate term.
Yeah,
I like
think
that.
to a degree we're all differently abled.
we are.
Well, everybody does things a little differently.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
and if you look at it, we're all differently abled, even if you're looking at things like what we do, right? We
Mhm.
don't
Right.
all, like I can't do accounting, Michael. That is just not my thing. So the cognitive stuff, we have differences all the time in what we can
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
my daughter's going into astrophysics at U of T. She's leaving in a few weeks. But I've looked at her homework and went, yeah, no, nope. Math should not have so many letters and symbols in it. I disagree, but that's just it. Is she is so good at it and loves it, and I don't.
But can you imagine if we all did the same thing?
Yeah,
We all had the same talent,
We'd be
skills, and
drones.
abilities. We'd be like, there'd be a whole area of things not being done.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, from an not to be all economists about it, but from an efficiency perspective, certain things are not getting done, and other things are way overstaffed.
Yeah. So differently abled is okay. That's what I'm going to refer to it from now on. I got approval from Michael.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
I'd like to put a disclaimer. These are my opinions. And not like
we do have that now, so you're good.
I always laugh when someone's like, what do you think of this? And I always use a disclaimer. Personally, I don't have an issue. I could see where others might, because it is a very personal thing. I mean, what I was saying about helping people, offering help, I remember there was a person who was in a wheelchair and got upset because someone offered to move the chair for them. And she's like, well, I'm not going to go through it. And like in her mind, they just should have known to move the chair because it was obvious. Whereas if you're not necessarily in a milieu where you're regularly dealing with people with disabilities, you may not be that familiar, right? I always find it interesting when people are very comfortable around me and inclusive. I'm always interested to hear their backstory because usually they've had a friend or they had a relative or someone that has a disability.
Right.
Because again, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. Or however that expression goes.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
So yeah, like walk a mile in their shoe or roll a mile in their chair.
You took away my joke because I was going to go,
Sorry.
well, in my case, it's not so much walking, but
I'm inclusive even in my jokes.
I always love when someone introduces me as a stand-up comedian because the person they introduce me to looks at them kind of funny because they'll say, well, he sits down, but you know what I mean. And or like they'll say stand-up comedian. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting right here. Like, come on. But yeah, that's why I like the lift on the chair because now when I get up, when I go to do a set, I'm like, hang on, it's stand-up comedy, and I lift the wheelchair. I'm like, you will promise stand-up comedy, you will get stand-up comedy. So there you go.
Well, it's been such a joy having you, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and it was great to see you again. Don't forget to come back and see us all again at the end of the month. And we'll have to have you on again, Michael.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.